If you ask players what game from the tactical FPS genre leads the field, then Squad would almost certainly be one of the top picks. From that post back in 2014 on the Project Reality forums, itself a mod for Battlefield 2, saying that they plan to make a spiritual successor to that beloved project, and for that to actually become the game we've seen grow up over the past few years to the release of the new 2.0 version is really a testament to how far it's come. So with a storied history and a major release just released, let's ask, Squad 2.0, is it worth playing? Let's straight jump into what's new, no messing around. On the playable content front, there's a new snowy map called Goose Bay. It adds a nice variation to the existing visuals of the game. There are some nice woodland areas, a bit of elevation for the landscape, but nothing too crazy. But there's some differently styled urban areas from towns, airports, and even a radar dish installation. I've played a few matches on this map now, and they were a lot of fun. Some dense tree cover and open areas lead to some tense and hectic encounters. They also list what's up as a map layer overhaul, which looks like a restructuring of the systems that govern how the maps react to the different game modes. So what weather, vehicles, spawn, capture locations, and so on. The new graphics setting menu looks like a lot of back-end and calibration work too. There's some feeling of improved visuals, although I've moved computers between 1.0 and 2.0, so it's kind of tough to be truly impartial here. It's not on the level of like a remaster or with a new rendering engine. This feels more like an incremental change. There's some new sampling options to over or undersample depending if you want better anti-aliasing or improved performance, a new temporal anti-aliasing implementation, a rework of shadows across the different quality settings for better uniformity and to stop players using no shadows at all, and lots more. Another notable bug fix is the rework to the helicopter netcode. Previously, helicopters could feel pretty rubber bandy, for want of a better expression, but in 2.0 that feels significantly better, if not completely resolved. There's a feeling of a lot of work going into the systems and behind-the-scene work that's essential for Squad to be balanced and future flexibility of the game and so on, and I'm not looking to minimize or criticize that work at all. It's all positive and good for the game, but I'm left feeling if this really feels like a major 2.0 update. It might be a marketing thing, certainly a major number advance makes it sound like a really big release, but as a list of new content to play, some bullet points to hype people, to engage them with what's new, it kind of feels more like a 1.5 than a 2.0 to me. And just quick aside to say, if you are enjoying this video, please do tap the thumb up button. It helps me out with YouTube and discoverability and all stuff like that. If you tap the subscribe button as well, I really appreciate that too. Thank you. Squad's gameplay is still an utter gem. The devs created this sandbox, and in some maps almost literally, but it's the players who are in the community that make it the success and lift it to its highest of heights. The quality of the players that the game attracts is key. Squad doesn't need people looking for an arcade-style experience. Coordination and cooperation are the key to unlocking power in this world. Without them, you're almost nothing. To fulfill this need is a player base that to some degree is self-regulating. Some servers require you to fulfill the role that you're meant to be playing. You're giving orders, you're taking orders, you're carrying them out. If players don't like them, then they can get kicked. Perhaps they should really think about whether or not Squad or these style of games is for them. The result of the setup is a shared bond between players. Others you meet in decent matches, and for some reason I still end up playing on Canadian servers. I don't know why. Well, those people are like-minded players who want to be there and be part of that experience. It doesn't mean that it's super serious either. There's still room for joking and some banter. There's a feeling that when the game starts to get intense, people are putting in the same sort of effort that you are to do their best. This is a game with no structured progression, no level meters or unlocks, so everyone who continues to play this game, the experience is the reward. No one's absent-mindedly grinding XP here. The design is tactical hardcore FPS with very little dilution. No armor pickups, it's modern weaponry, and really any well-aimed single shot can kill. But for me, it's the suppression system that still feels like a real standout in the design. It feels like, to an outsider anyway, to be an authentic representation of how things can work in the real world. Being shot at instantly gets your attention, a crack over your head, darkening, restricted vision, and a loss of fidelity all put you in no doubt that you are in danger. Loss of ability is important. It's an impairment that's difficult to overcome. Weapon fire isn't just about the damage that the bullet does, it's about the power it projects and how it forces other people to react. It's a proper gameplay mechanic too. So many arcade-style games punish you for missing. Firing near people is just a poorly aimed shot in those kind of games. But with Suppression and Squad, there's real value in even giving rough callouts to teammates. In that tree line to the north or the second floor of that building somewhere, are enough to allow your allies to respond with aggression and to force enemy players to keep their heads down. It means that people looking through scopes should be verbal about what they see. Giving directions to mounted weapons or machine gunners can multiply the amount of power that they can direct, even if the people actually using the weapons can't see those targets directly. For Squad, there's certainly no loss in focus seen in the gameplay and design, as we see this development continue post-launch. Graphics are still good at times. It's probably best when the atmospheric blooms and fogs help shroud the landscape a little. But on the whole, they don't feel like a main pillar of focus like, say, the gameplay and audio design are. The first-person weapon models are nicely done, but a bit like Insurgency Sandstorm in that sometimes they feel massively better in quality than the environments that you're walking around in. It's not to the point where it detracts from the game though, far from it, but lack an overall feel of being cutting edge or even to the standard of something like Hell Let Loose. Something I brought up before in other titles is the lack of environmental dressing for interiors, and that's certainly the case for many buildings in Squad 2. It gives them a film set feel rather than feeling like a real vacated building that people actually lived and worked in. Audio seems as important to the Squad experience as gameplay design is. Every sound in the game has an authentic and realistic feel to it. But perhaps the greatest choice for the design here is to focus on keeping the so-called dynamic range of sounds to be as true to real life as possible. In short, the dynamic range is the difference between the loudest and quietest sounds. Many games have a pretty compressed dynamic range. All the noises of the game, regardless of how loud they might be in real life, are presented as fairly uniform to players. It can give a fairly polished feel to a game, and can actually be less tiring to listen to be honest. The problem with that is that it robs the drama and immersion from experiences. Character voice lines shouldn't be the same volume as gunfire. It pulls all the weight and the power from what is an inherently dramatic event. Not so in Squad. Here, the weapon handling sounds are quiet, the noise of wind or boots on the ground louder again. But when something like a weapon is fired, then the world becomes about that event. It becomes all-encompassing for anyone nearby, not just the person firing, and it robs those people of their situational awareness. They simply can't hear anything else. The weapon sounds themselves are superbly recreated. Weapons crack and pop and thump as you would hope they would do in a military simulator. You are never less than fully aware of the power you wield in your virtual hands. But if the guns are loud, then hold on to your boots because the auditory impact of explosions are astonishing. Tank and artillery fire thunder like deafening symphonies across the battlefield in a way that is awe-inspiring even the 10th or 20th time that you experience them. I guess, TLDR, Squad has pretty good audio.
Hey, I got you upstairs. Give up.
You want to shoot the buildings? They're having trouble in this alley.
Okay, I'm gonna back.
On the performance front, I'm afraid me jumping between computers and moving to 1440p makes performance comparisons feel pretty difficult to make. Anecdotally, I've seen some people complain about performance regression with some of the force shadow options. So if you were barely running the game before, then that floor of performance that you need to achieve might feel a little bit higher. The game itself feels pretty CPU bound for the large fights, as you might imagine. These are 100-player servers, so times when players are concentrated in one area with all the artillery and vehicles that brings, well yeah, don't expect consistent 100-plus FPS in those situations, even on a pretty new machine. Squad is still the leader for player numbers in the tactical FPS genre. 1.0 was a big launch for Squad. It landed well, and had a big jump from before. 2.0 shows a kick too, but nothing like the 1.0 release. I wonder how different those numbers would have been if it had been labelled 1.5 rather than 2. My gut says not massively different. So, Squad 2.0, is it worth playing? The good news is that the core of what makes Squad great has never been diluted. Even post-launch, we see no evidence of the devs looking to widen its appeal by rounding any sharp edges in the design. Those edges are what makes Squad for its loyal player base. If you're looking for a tactical FPS and you want a modern environment, an immersive experience, then Squad simply has to be at the top of that list, and I've seen nothing to suggest that any other title is really even close to stealing its crown. If there are complaints, then I'd look at that 2.0 label on the last patch. 2.0 should be a Steam news pop-up and a major content drop, and although the content of that patch is universally good, it doesn't feel like the game made the same jump from pre-release to 1.0 as it did 1.0 to 2.0, at least for the playable content. Though, I mean, you might also say that if one of the biggest negatives you're calling out about Squad is the patch naming convention, then that kind of speaks for itself as well. That's a fair point. Another negative, though, is the price jump that we've seen, although, to be fair, we actually knew about last time since we looked at Squad. If you're new to the game now, Squad is almost £40 in the UK, almost $50 in the US, and that feels like some pretty strong pricing in 2021. I have, though, seen it reduced by 25% in the regular Steam sales. You might argue that the higher price buy-in helps only attract the kind of people that Squad needs, those dedicated to the demands actually placed on players, but even then it feels high. I think part of that high price feeling is that many people have been playing this game for a while. Yes, I know it was in early access until fairly recently, but for me, I came to Squad from a humble bundle many months ago. I'd really like to see the devs rebalance the way that they raise money with the goal of a reduction in the sticker price to something in the sort of £30 region. In addition, I'd like to see some cosmetic options, like the ones that Insurgency Sandstorm has dabbled with, to allow those people who are engaged with the game over a long period to continue to support the game, if they choose to. To be clear, I'm talking about cosmetics that are totally in keeping with Squad. I'm not talking about gun charms or golden skins or anything like that. For a couple of ideas, something like first-person weapon changes, like cloth tied to weapons for camouflage, cheat pads on scoped weapons, or even part camouflage painted elements, all to suggest in-field maintenance and customization of weapons. Small things that wouldn't affect gameplay in any way, but would be cool for players to have if they want to look like seasoned soldiers who'd adjusted their kit to suit their demands. But all in all, Squad is just a superb title. If you find the idea of working as part of a team to achieve a common goal to be your thing, then Squad is simply one of the best titles available. A game that always entertains on returning to, even when playing other games in the same genre. The player base that has grown around Squad is the real secret to the game's success. The people you meet, the jokes told, and the bond that grows between you and your teammates as you battle through the most difficult of situations. Are you a Squad player? What changes would you like to see? Are you new to Squad? Does this look like the kind of thing you'd enjoy? Let me know all your powerful thoughts and feelings by leaving a comment below right now. As always, I'll be reading every single one of them. If you enjoy this video, please tap the subscribe button as it helps me grow the channel, and you'll get a notification when that next video is out. If you go that extra mile and post to Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, or wherever, then a huge thank you to you. It really helps me out. Honestly, it's very much appreciated. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Take care.